Imagine the tangy depth of sourdough, a bread that has been cherished for centuries. Its origins trace back to ancient Egypt, where it was discovered by accident. The natural fermentation process gives it a unique flavor profile that is both complex and deeply satisfying. The slightly sour taste, combined with a chewy texture, makes it a favorite among bread enthusiasts. Now picture this tangy delight meeting the rich sweetness of challah, a bread that is equally steeped in tradition. Challah, with its roots in Jewish culture, is often enjoyed during Shabbat and other festive occasions. Its golden brown crust and soft, airy interior make it a symbol of celebration and togetherness. It's a match made in bread heaven. When these two iconic breads come together, they create something truly extraordinary. The fusion of sourdough's tang and challah's sweetness results in a loaf that is both complex and comforting, a true testament to the art of bread making. This unique combination creates a loaf that's both complex and comforting. The intricate crumb structure, with its beautiful blend of flavors, is a delight to both the eyes and the palate. Each slice reveals a story of tradition, innovation, and the joy of baking. The sourdough adds a subtle tang, a hint of acidity that perfectly balances the sweetness of the challah. This tang comes from the natural fermentation process, where wild yeast and lactic acid bacteria work together to create a symphony of flavors. Meanwhile, the challah brings its signature sweetness and soft, pillowy texture. The dough, enriched with eggs and a touch of honey, rises beautifully to create a bread that is both tender and flavorful. The braiding of the dough adds an element of artistry, making each loaf a work of edible art. The first time I tasted sourdough challah, I was hooked. The combination of flavors and textures was unlike anything I had ever experienced. It was as if the best of both worlds had come together in perfect harmony. The aroma alone was intoxicating, a blend of yeasty warmth and subtle sourness. As the bread baked in the oven, the kitchen was filled with a scent that was both nostalgic and inviting. It was a reminder of the simple pleasures of home baking. One bite, and I was transported back to my grandmother's kitchen, where the smell of freshly baked bread always filled the air. Those moments spent with her, learning the art of bread making, are some of my most cherished memories, where the smell of freshly baked bread always filled the air. It was a place of warmth, love, and delicious aromas. My grandmother's hands, skillfully kneading the dough, taught me the importance of patience and care in baking. This bread is more than just a recipe, it's an experience. It's about connecting with the past, honoring traditions, and creating something that brings people together. Each loaf is a labor of love, a testament to the joy of baking. It's about slowing down, connecting with tradition, and creating something truly special with your own two hands. The process of making sourdough challah is a journey in itself, one that requires time, patience, and a bit of creativity, and creating something truly special with your own two hands. From mixing the ingredients to watching the dough rise, every step is a reminder of the magic of baking. It's a chance to slow down, savor the moment, and create something beautiful. And the best part? It's surprisingly easy to make at home. With a few simple ingredients and a bit of practice, you can create a loaf that rivals those from the best bakeries. The satisfaction of pulling a freshly baked loaf from the oven is unmatched. So are you ready to embark on this delicious journey with me? Let's bake. Together, we'll explore the art of sourdough challah, from the basics to the more advanced techniques. Whether you're a seasoned baker or a beginner, this journey promises to be both fun and rewarding. Let's get started and create something truly special. The heart of any sourdough bread is the starter, a living culture of flour and water that gives the bread its distinctive flavor and texture. This magical mixture is what sets sourdough apart from other types of bread, providing a unique tangy taste and a chewy, airy crumb. The starter is essentially a natural leavening agent, harnessing the power of wild yeasts and lactic acid bacteria present in the environment. Don't be intimidated by the thought of creating your own starter. It might seem like a complex science experiment, but it's actually quite simple and incredibly rewarding. With just a little patience and consistency, you'll have a thriving starter in no time. It's like having a little pet that you feed and nurture. Just like any pet, your starter needs regular attention and care. You'll be amazed at how it grows and changes over time, developing its own personality and characteristics. All you need is flour and water. These two simple ingredients are all it takes to create a living, breathing culture. The type of flour you use can affect the flavor and activity of your starter, so feel free to experiment with different varieties like whole wheat, rye, or all-purpose flour. Mix them together and let them sit at room temperature. This initial mixture is called the seed or mother starter. Cover it loosely to allow air to circulate while keeping out any unwanted debris. Over the next 24 hours, the natural yeasts and bacteria will begin to colonize the mixture. Over the next few days, you'll feed your starter regularly with more flour and water. This process is called refreshing or feeding the starter. Each time you feed it, you'll discard a portion of the old mixture and add fresh flour and water. This keeps the yeast population healthy and active. As the days go by, you'll notice bubbles forming, a sign that your starter is alive and active. These bubbles are produced by the carbon dioxide gas released by the fermenting yeast. The more bubbles you see, the more active your starter is becoming. This means the wild yeasts and bacteria are multiplying and working their magic. The lactic acid bacteria produce acids that give sourdough its characteristic tangy flavor, while the yeast provides the leavening power to make the bread rise. Once your starter is bubbly and doubles in size after feeding, it's ready to use. This usually happens within 4 to 7 days, depending on the temperature and the flour you use. A healthy starter should have a pleasant, slightly tangy aroma and be full of bubbles. This process usually takes about 5 to 7 days, but trust me, the wait is worth it. Once your starter is ready, you can use it to bake delicious sourdough bread, pancakes, waffles, and more. The possibilities are endless, and the satisfaction of baking with your own homemade starter is truly unparalleled. So, roll up your sleeves, get your hands a little floury, and embark on this exciting sourdough journey. Now that your starter is bubbling away, let's gather the rest of the ingredients for our sourdough challah. Each ingredient plays a crucial role in creating the perfect loaf. We'll need bread flour for its high protein content, which gives the bread structure. Eggs add richness and help with browning. Honey lends a touch of sweetness that complements the sourdough's tang. A bit of oil keeps the dough soft and pliable. And of course, we can't forget salt. Salt enhances all the other flavors and controls the yeast activity. Remember, baking is like a science experiment. Using the right ingredients in the right proportions ensures consistent and delicious results every time. Section 4. From flour to dough, mixing and kneading with love. Now comes the fun part, bringing all our ingredients together to form the dough. In a large bowl, combine your starter, flour, eggs, honey, oil, and salt. Mix everything together until it forms a shaggy mass. Then, turn the dough out onto a lightly floured surface and start kneading. Kneading is crucial for developing gluten, which gives the bread its structure and chew. Push the dough away from you with the heel of your hand, fold it over, and rotate it a quarter turn. Repeat this rhythmic motion for about 10 to 12 minutes. You'll know the dough is ready when it becomes smooth, elastic, and springs back when you poke it gently. Section 5. The art of braiding, shaping your challah masterpiece. Braiding challah is like creating edible art. It's a time-honored tradition that adds beauty and meaning to this special bread. Divide your dough into equal portions, typically 3 or 6 strands for braiding. Roll each portion into a long, even rope. Then, arrange the ropes side by side and begin braiding. There are countless braiding techniques to explore, from simple 3-strand braids to more elaborate designs. Don't worry if your first few attempts aren't perfect. The most important thing is to have fun and enjoy the process. Remember, each challah is unique, just like a work of art. Section 6. Slow and steady, the importance of a long rise. Once your challah is braided, it's time for the dough to rise. This step is not just a waiting game, it's a transformative process that is essential for the final product. The dough needs time to rest and develop, allowing the yeast to ferment the sugars and produce carbon dioxide, which makes the dough expand. This is what gives challah its characteristic light and fluffy texture. This is a crucial step that allows the flavors to develop fully. The longer the rise, the more time the yeast has to break down the complex carbohydrates into simpler sugars, which enhances the flavor profile of the bread. The dough's texture also improves, becoming more elastic and easier to work with. This is particularly important for challah, which is known for its intricate braids and beautiful presentation. Place your braided loaf in a greased bowl, cover it with plastic wrap, and let it rise in a warm, draft-free place. The warmth helps activate the yeast, speeding up the fermentation process. However, it's important to avoid too much heat, as it can kill the yeast or cause the dough to rise too quickly, resulting in a dense and heavy loaf. A slow, steady rise is key to achieving the perfect texture and flavor. The sourdough element in this recipe adds a whole new dimension to the rising process. Sourdough starter is a natural leavening agent that contains wild yeast and lactic acid bacteria. These microorganisms work together to ferment the dough, producing a unique tangy flavor and a chewy texture. Incorporating sourdough into your challah not only enhances the taste, but also makes the bread more digestible and nutritious. Unlike commercial yeast, sourdough works slowly and steadily, fermenting the sugars in the dough and developing those complex, tangy flavors we love. This slow fermentation process allows the dough to rise gradually, creating a more open crumb structure with larger air pockets. The result is a loaf that is not only delicious but also visually appealing with a beautiful, airy texture. A long rise, ideally overnight in the refrigerator, is the secret to achieving a light and airy texture. The cold temperature slows down the fermentation process, allowing the dough to develop more complex flavors and a better structure. This extended rise time also makes the dough easier to handle and shape, resulting in a more consistent and professional-looking loaf. During this time, the dough will slowly expand, creating those beautiful air pockets that make challah so irresistible. These air pockets are a sign of a well-fermented dough and contribute to the bread's light and fluffy texture. So be patient and give your dough the time it needs to rise properly. The end result will be a delicious, beautifully textured challah that is well worth the wait.